Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Level Up Luke. Welcome to the Queen City Soccer Show. This is a Twitter Spaces that we did post game after the Cincinnati Charlotte FC game. Charlotte emerges the winner, defeating the number one team in the East, the Supporters Shield leading FC Cincinnati, and they've been on fire lately. They just beat Miami like 6-1 the other day, and Charlotte goes into their house and thoroughly defeats them, taking a 2-0 lead, finishing the game 3-1. Could have been 4-1. Both teams had a goal called back. Kalina stopped a penalty kick. It had everything. Just Sharman on the radio said that if you had somebody and you wanted to teach them the rules of the game, you could show them this FC Cincinnati Charlotte game because it had everything. And I still have yet to watch a replay, but I was up in High Point, North Carolina to see Carolina Core FC with Soccer Sheets Sam Spencer. So shout out to friend of the pod. And we caught the end of the game on the radio on the drive back to Charlotte. So yeah, it was a great one, and we are celebrating. Regular disclaimer on these Twitter Spaces. This is a post game reaction. People have been at watch parties. They've been, maybe imbibing. This is like hanging out with your friends at the bar. You will get some insight from the press conferences. You'll get some insight from actual reporters. But mostly it's just fans talking about the game, language warning, all that regular stuff. Don't take any of these opinions personally. They could easily change after people have had a chance to sleep and reflect on the game a little bit more. But this is just the instant reaction. Welcome. And if you want to join in next time, you can follow me on Twitter at LVLUP_Luke. You can follow the podcast at QCS Pod. And we are planning a lot of more content this week that you can find on our TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all the socials, as well as some on your podcast feed. But make sure to follow us wherever you would like to engage with our content. And here we go. Twitter Spaces starts now. Your car. Hello. Welcome to the Charlotte FC post-game Twitter Spaces. We will also be covering some other Carolina soccer tonight. I had the pleasure of being at Carolina Core in High Point, North Carolina, watching Crown Legacy on the road. So I will go ahead and invite you up to speak here, and we'll go ahead and get started. CLTFC fan, what's up, bud? How was the Charlotte FC game tonight?
Bruh, honestly, I have got to say I think that was one of the best games that Charlotte has played all season. I'm not gonna lie, I was afraid that with Ashiman out that we were gonna struggle to score, that at best we could maybe walk away with a draw. To see Charlotte scoring not one but two goals in 20 minutes, I mean, it was like a shock. It was complete shock. You know, and to see that they never um, let up the pressure. I mean, I'd say last 10, 15 minutes of that first half, I was starting to worry. I was like, oh, it looks like they're taking the foot off the gas. But, typical Dino, whatever he said to them in that locker room um, at halftime, fired them right back up again. Because that second half, the intensity was back up. They were pushing. They were creating chances again, and I mean, three different goal scorers, with all assists from Captain Westwood. I mean, I don't know if I could ask for a better performance from the team, and so to walk away with 3 points against Cincinnati, it's like Christmas in July for Charlotte fans right now. Um, if this is what we've got going into the Columbus game midweek, um, honestly, I feel like we could get a win in Columbus. I know they're a little bit scrappier team than Cincinnati, and they probably won't make the mistakes that Cincinnati made. But I don't think that's going to matter. I think Charlotte's going to go into Columbus on Wednesday, and they're going to take names. So that when we go into the game in Austin on Saturday, which should be the first game that Swiderski's available to play, I think we're going to be on a roll. Like, I would not be too surprised if we walk away with this three road stretch with 7 out of 9 points, if I'm being honest. But real happy with the
Wow.
result tonight.
That's a lot. That's very optimistic. I was hoping we would get 1 point, maybe 2 or 3, in this road trip stretch. But yeah, the performance tonight was incredible. We heard from Dean, Ashley Westwood, and Christian Kalina after the game. I'm here with Sam Spencer from Soccer Sheet, and we are, like I said, driving back from High Point here. So what a night! Crown Legacy does fall 2-1 in favor of the Foxes, Carolina Core. Charlotte FC, big old night, and yeah, so fantastic. Ash Hamrick, tell me about the game tonight.
Oh well, there's not really a lot to say, honestly. There's only one Queen City, and it sure as shit is not Cincinnati. Akasa is a flopping ass bitch, and Ashley Westwood is the gemstone of all gemstones, and he played his heart out today.
Fantastic. I love it. Skyline Chili is not real. And let's go with Queen's Pitch. Bridget, I heard you in the press conference there. What is up? Tell me about your experience tonight.
Well, that was Kara in the press conference, but no. I thought it was great tonight. I thought it was cool. The one thing about the press conference that struck me was when Kalina said that he let Melanda pick which way he went on that PK. I just thought that was so cool, and he did it because he wanted to build Melanda's confidence if he got it right, and he did. So it worked out. So,
Fantastic. Back to CLTFC fan. So we got a little bit of news tonight. Yuri Tavares is expecting.
That might explain a couple things. But yeah, like, what a great way to celebrate his, growing family. I thought that celebration of his was, absolutely touching. I'm happy for him to get that goal tonight, and I think he opened up the floodgates for tonight. If I'm going to be honest, I think, given the way that he scored that goal, that assist from Ashley, I just think it started the whole ball rolling. But seems like these big life events really tend to wake the guys up, because when Bender got married, right, his game like picked up. When Liel got engaged, his game picked up. So seems like all these big life events really do have a huge impact on the players' confidence and their mentality.
Yeah, soccer is an emotional sport. It's an emotional game. I think that's incredible for Yuri. I was glad he got the start. I think a lot of us were predicting that with the way the team brought him out for media availability earlier in the week. But yeah, hey, fantastic. We actually had 3 center forwards throughout the game. Tavares, Tiger Smalls, and Nick Scardina, I believe. So if anybody wants to jump in, can you guys tell me about what you saw on the attack tonight, and how our different players looked sliding into this roster that none of them have really played a ton of time in.
I gotta say, from my perspective, I think it quieted a lot of skeptics. Up to this point, we've only had 2 central forwards that have started every single game. Gopetti, the first 11 games of the season, then he leaves, and it's been Aguiman ever since. For Tavares to step in for Ajiman, and again, with that assist from Ashley to open up the scoring, to see the way he played, to see the way Scardina played when he came in, even though he only had a few minutes. it really shows that Dean is building up a strong attack side. We've been complaining about the offense all season, despite because the defense is practically flawless. They make mistakes every so now, but compared to last season where we conceded 52 goals, commentators were saying that the way Charlotte is playing right now, we are on track to finish the season only conceding 35 goals. So I mean, that's a huge turnaround right there. I think what we're seeing now is that our offensive woes might also finally be coming to an end. Dean has picked some really good attacking players, and it gives me confidence in that who he's going to try and get as a DP9 is going to slot in real well. It gives me more confidence that Swiderski is going to slot in both at a 9 or a 10 real well. And when we get Ajiman back into that mix on midweek, like for me, it's just an optimistic outlook for the rest of the season.
That's great. Yeah, and I'll throw in here too. I mean, as far as the attack, we've seen bits and pieces of Tiger Smalls and Yuri Tavares throughout the season, but Stardina is a Crown Legacy player who's done really well for them, very consistent over last season and part of this year. But for Dean to start him in his first MLS game against the number one team in the East and Supporters Shield favorites, Cincinnati, that is an extraordinary show of confidence from Dean Smith, who has also given starts to a few other young up-and-coming players. So I'm very impressed by what Dean is doing to build confidence in the development system, in the academy system, even with Birchmas coming up. And it's incredible. Shout out to Nympha, by the way. He was brought on to the U.S., I believe it's the U20 team. So he's actually gone up 3 age brackets now for the U.S. youth national teams. Congratulations to Nympha. That's incredible. He is up and coming. He's going to do some great things, and he is one of our own. Let me go ahead and kick it over to you, Bridget, and then Ash Hamrick.
I just want to point out that we have now equaled our total amount of wins as we did last season, and we have how many games left do we have?
I think about 10 or 11.
Yeah,
half the season.
Yeah, we still have 10 or 11 games left, and we have already equaled the amount of wins that we got the entirety of last season. And so I think that just goes to show how much a coach can make a difference with this squad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, arguably a worse roster, right? Like, I mean, Liel Abada is the biggest addition, but we haven't had Swiderski the whole year. So it is incredible. And this system and these players and the way that they're developing and playing for Dean and for each other. We're hearing a lot this week about their camaraderie, about some of the antics and the good vibes in the locker room. You have Yeri Ronan kind of shadowing a press conference in a joking way. You have Nathan Byrne and some of the other defenders kind of catcalling Melanda while he's talking to the press about his contract extension. These players really, you can tell that they get along on and off the pitch. It's great to see. I'm sure that they're splitting a lot of bottles of wine from the coach because of all these clean sheets. But, not a clean sheet today. Since he did score one, they had another one waved off and a penalty saved by Kalina. Can you guys tell me a little bit about, what Cincinnati was bringing to that attack? And because I haven't seen the game or the highlights yet, was that really a penalty on Adilson Melanda for the handball?
I would be upset if I was on the opposition and that wasn't called. His arm was close to him, but his forearm was sort of like out perpendicular to his body, so it hit him square on the hand. So yeah, it was a penalty, but it doesn't really matter because Kalina is a fucking brick wall. But I just want to get ahead of this because I can already hear all the Cincinnati crybabies saying this in my head. They're probably saying, "Oh, you only won because of the ref. Oh, you only won because of dodgy calls." one, you guys got the penalty, didn't convert, nothing to do with us. Two, the offsides goal that got called off, that was like 5 feet offsides. I don't know how play was able to continue with that. Also, the ref was just handing out yellow cards to us like he had a fucking quota for us. And three, we had also a goal called for offsides, so you have no right to claim out there. We won this game on merit, and I will die on this hill.
So, regarding the penalty call, for me, having watched the Euros, it was similar to the Cucurella situation with this Germany-Spain quarterfinal match. In that situation, apparently UEFA had told the referees that if the arms were down like that, and the ball hit the hand, it's not considered a handball. Looking at the game and at the replays, Melanda's hand and arm were almost similarly in position to Cucurella in that game, and yet in this game, MLS says it's a handball, but in that game, UEFA says it's not. So for me, I personally think if it wasn't a handball for Germany in the Euros, it shouldn't have been a handball for Cincinnati, period. And I feel like in this situation, FIFA needs to step in and needs to set some clear guidelines on what is considered a handball and what isn't.
I got
personally,
agree, man. I'll be honest with you, that was not the same hand position that Cucurella had his hand in. Cucurella's hand was down, pointed at the ground, and Addy's arm was more of like, imagine you were pointing your hand from almost like your waist, like you were gonna like pretending to shoot somebody with your fingers, like his hand was like literally 90 degrees out. It definitely was not in the same position as Cucurella's in that Germany match at all.
Either way, I still feel like the handball rule needs to be fleshed out more. Like it needs to be cleaner, and it needs to be enforced more consistently. Because if different federations can sit there and say, "Well, this is a handball and this isn't, and this is a handball and this isn't," it's just making it a more contentious rule. Me personally, I would like to see it to where it says if it touches anywhere below the shoulder to the fingertips, doesn't matter what the arm position is, it's a handball, period. Leave it at that. And if it's done in the box, penalty. But that's just me.
I mean, personally, I would like to see a rule change where they are allowed to use their hands as long as they don't pass the line of scrimmage. But that's just me. So in the post-game press conference, Dean did say that he doesn't know what Melanda's supposed to do. Should he be scratching his back while defending? Kind of tongue-in-cheek. But Kalina, with probably the most interesting bit of the press conference, said that because Acosta was taking the penalty, he doesn't have a tendency. He shoots right, left, and center. So Kalina actually deferred to Melanda to pick the direction that Kalina would go. And Melanda picked the left side. So Kalina played the psychology with Acosta to get him to pick left and then dive left. So that was Kalina's breakdown of the penalty, was giving credit to Adilson Melanda on that. Hilarious. I love it. Joe Garcia, I know you were telling us a little bit about the handball call. What else did you see tonight? Ashley Westwood, almost 4 assists. What a performance. We had a lot of substitutions and changes. Tell me about the game. What'd you see?
I didn't have a great position watching the game tonight. I was at Salute tonight at the Min City Collective watch party, and I was in a bad position for most of the match. But from what I did see very clearly, I mean, Westy had a monster game. I thought that for the first 2/3 of the first half, we looked awesome, like on the attack. Like we had control. We were moving the ball well. I thought the goals were really nice. We need guys to start shooting a little bit lower if it's possible, though. I mean, I'm happy we scored 3, almost 4 goals. I'm not going to complain, but we got to get some of these shots a little lower, like from midway down net to the ground. Maybe we could put some more in, but I mean, overall, I thought it was a fantastic performance. My only gripe with the game is I don't know how we allowed so many chances to Cincy after they went down a man. That was my only concern. I thought, like, with the extra man for us, I don't know how we didn't have more control of the ball. And I just want to ask everybody else here. I did not have a good angle on the goal that was called off for us on Privet. Was that something that should not have been called off, or do you think the refs got that one right? Because I didn't get it.
No, sadly,
got it
as much
right.
as I was gonna say, as much as I hate to admit it, they got it right, because when they showed the replay, you could see that Privet started moving literally a split second after the ref, or right a split second before the ref blew the whistle. And as he started moving, his left shoulder leaned out past the last defender. So his shoulder is what caused him to go offside.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I had gotten back to the car to start driving back by that point, so I did hear the radio broadcast, and Just Sharman said right away, as soon as the replay came up, first of all, they were talking a lot of smack on the radio broadcast, and I loved it. Definitely go back and listen to those highlights if you're able to. But yeah, they were talking about we're the real Queen City, and then that got called back. She said right away when they saw the replay, his shoulder's offside. It's clear and obvious, and it seemed like the ref was going to let it stand. He finally goes over to the monitor because the Cincinnati coach, Pat Noonan, was really in the ref's ear, like chirping about it and pointing to the monitor. So they obviously saw it on the Cincy side. Their frustration came when the ref did start reviewing it, and it took him a few minutes when the offside was clear and obvious from the first angle that he looked at. He kept looking at other angles. That's what it sounded like on the radio broadcast. And then Dean echoed in the post game that.
To be fair, there was an angle that kind of showed that their Cincinnati player may have had a foot keeping Privet on side, but it wasn't there in the other angle. So I think that's what they were checking.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I think because I'm not mistaken, Ash, weren't they saying that it was Acosta's foot or something that might have kept Privet onside?
I can't remember who it was, but there was definitely a Cincinnati player's foot that may have been keeping them onside, but you couldn't see it in one of the angles.
Yeah, but at the main angle that they used, especially for the replay, you could clearly see Privet's shoulder was way offsides.
Okay, yeah, we have a listener comment in the Twitter space asking, what do we do about Vargas being red hot or ice cold? What can you guys tell me about Vargas's performance tonight? I know he.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like Vargas is a young man, so like, you know, he's like one of those guys who, like, he'll be on cloud nine, you know, has his favorite ice cream cone in hand, and then that first scoop falls to the floor and he starts crying, you know, like that kind of thing. So it's just like, you know, he gets into the game and it's like the first time that he tries to take a shot or tries to connect a pass or, you know, whatever, and it doesn't go through, all of a sudden his game just falls apart. Like he gets into his mind. But when he, you know, manages to connect the pass or get to the back of the net, then like he's on fire, you know. So I feel like that's something that Dean's got to work with Vargas on, is that Vargas just needs to be more confident in his capability. Like, we all know that he's got the skills and the talent to be up front, to score goals, and to get the assists. Like, we've seen it time and time again. He just doesn't see it, you know, at least not consistently.
So it sounds like to me you're saying that he might need a little bit of Danny Rojas treatment, a little bit of maturity, a little bit of, you know, memory of a goldfish, not letting that one bad event get to him. Like early in the season, Vargas had that missed PK, and then he was ice cold for like 4 games in a row.
Yep. Yeah, dude just needs to keep swimming.
Yeah, I could see that.
Dude just needs to keep on fighting.
Ash, what do you think?
I think I cannot believe what I'm about to say, but I think that when Swiderski does come back and hopefully starts playing in striker, we will have more attackers that we can rely on, and I think it'll take some pressure off of Vargas because let's be honest, he's been like one of our top scorers besides Patrick Achiman. I believe someone correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I believe that when Swiderski comes back, it will not only relieve Vargas of having that pressure of to like score goals every game, but I also think it will allow Vargas to become a better player with Swiderski and Abada working around them as well.
Yeah, I mean, that leads into another listener question here. Where does Swiderski fit in with Abada, Ashman, and Vargas? And it sounds like you're saying you want Swiderski to start over Ashman?
Yeah, so I think I was always of the opinion that Ajiman is at his best when he comes on as a sub in like the 60th or 70th minute and is just absolutely destroying tired defenders. I think that's where he is best utilized. I think Karol Swiderski can play as a 9 who will sometimes drop back into the midfield, draw in defenders so that Vargas and Abada can make runs in behind. And also just tire the shit out of every single center back that we play against, which when the time is right, Patrick Ajiman can come in and just completely dominate the two center backs. And Karol Swiderski will probably get a few goals along the way too. So I think that's the best way to use our two strikers that we have.
Yeah, I think Ash has got
Great. Well, hey, I want to kick it over to.
Sorry.
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, yeah, I think Ash has got a pretty good assessment there, because that's the way I see it as well. Bringing in Swiderski, having Ashman as a super sub, it's definitely gonna help Vargas and Abada score more. Because if we've got 3 attackers in the front that are that dangerous, opponents are gonna have a hard time being able to lock down our players. Because one thing I've noticed is that a lot of these teams will throw 2 or 3 defenders at one of our forwards, and that gives us a little bit of space, but not quite enough to really develop opportunities. But if you've got 3 players up front and you know all 3 are dangerous and you're trying to throw 2 or 3 bodies at each of them, that's going to open up a whole lot more space.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense to me. I want to kick it over to Queen's Pitch because I listened to one of the best Charlotte FC podcast episodes in recent memory this morning. Why don't you jump on up if this is Bridget or Kara, either one, and tell me a little bit about that episode, the Queen's Pitch, the Great Swiderski Debate of 2024. And how that episode came to be, and where do you land on Swiderski and the dynamic with the rest of the offense?
Well, it's been an episode that has been coming, I guess, for a couple weeks. I couldn't speak on it for like when I first heard the news, and my emotions were extreme. Like if you thought they were extreme on this podcast, but so Kara and I've been going around for a couple weeks, but I finally got to where I could record it a little bit, and I.
Yeah, I think your washing machine's done.
Team, but like, do y'all not worry that he's going to mess up the dynamic that we have out there right now? Like, our guys get along really well. That, like you said, they get along really well in the locker room. They vibe off of each other. Is Karol going to be able to come in without that ego and mess everything up? Does that not concern anybody?
I will say.
I mean, how about
I will say it would have concerned me if we still had Latanzio, but now that we have an actual football coach that has created this chemistry, I think that Dean Smith is a better coach to, handle Swiderski's emotions and tendencies and to get the best out of him. And like I said, I wasn't really too pleased when the club announced that he was coming back, but since he's here, we might as well use him. I mean, it'd be pretty stupid to just keep him and not use him.
I also think that his time at Verona, given the fact that he wasn't played as often as he was expecting, and then when he did play, struggled to be effective for Verona. I think if he did go to to Verona with an attitude, or left Charlotte with an attitude, however you want to look at it. He probably has been humbled. And he's come back to Charlotte knowing that this is a place where he's going to succeed and he's going to develop and he's going to grow. So, that plus the fact that he's stayed in touch with the team, like with Kalina, Westwood, Dean Smith, Cronetta, watching the games, keeping up with the plays, looking at all that. I don't think that him coming in is gonna mess up any dynamic. He's already been training since Monday, and it looks like he's been all smiles from what I've seen of him in the videos posted by Charlotte FC from training sessions. Seems like he's getting along with everybody, so I don't think it's going to mess up any dynamic. I think, if anything, it's just going to strengthen the dynamic that the team currently has.
All right, so let me go ahead and break it down for you guys.
That's my
I'm
biggest fear with him is the I guess I was, and I guess I go back to that time. Like, I like not having players on our team that fall on the ground and whine and get upset. Like I like the fact they work hard, and he does work hard. Don't get me wrong. So if he can come out there and he can mesh and he can be a part of the team and not have to be the star of the team, and have to make all the goals himself, but he can pass and help everybody else, then I'm all for it. I don't think that he's bad, and he should definitely not. I don't think he should have to ride the bench all the time or anything like that. But I just don't want him to come in and take away from these guys that have worked so dang hard to get us where we're at, like we are tonight, and him take away from that. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and break it down for you guys. So first of all, Swiderski's number one motivation is Swiderski. And right now he wants to go back to Europe. He wants to go to a top 5 league. He does not have the cachet to do that at a price that the club will accept. So he needs to build up his profile a little bit. He needs to get some goals. He needs to show that he is a worthwhile number 9 for at least a bottom table Italian team. And obviously he wasn't good enough for Verona in the form that he was in. So if Dean can work with Swiderski to show off and get him some highlight reel tape, all for the better. That benefits Swiderski, and I think Dean knows that. The team, losing Scotty Arfield, who seems like a great locker room guy. He's the kind of guy you're going to go out and grab a beer with after the game. He's always going to be making jokes in the locker room or playing with his guitar. So I cannot imagine that losing Arfield and gaining Swiderski is not going to change some dynamics in the locker room. I think it really is. But, for the better, I don't know. I think it'll be a little bit more professional. I think Swiderski is a higher level player. I think everybody knows that. But, is Swiderski willing to play the 10? Is he willing to play out on the wing? Those are things he didn't like doing last year. And right now, we have a number 9 who has earned the spot. We have Yuri Tavares, who's put in some good work, especially tonight. We have a number of players. Tiger Smalls, who's been here all year. So we're out there looking for a number 9. It's known that we might bring one in this window. Swiderski's place is here temporarily, but I think he has to be flexible, and he has to be willing to show that he can play for the team. And by doing that, it can raise his stock, his trade stock. So I'm optimistic. And at the end of the day, though, my breakdown ends with winning fixes everything. If the team is doing well and we're winning, the vibes are going to be good. If Swiderski comes back, and even if he's trying his best, if we start losing or struggling, then I become worried about the team dynamic. Does that make sense? Am I off base here?
No, I agree with you there.
So, yeah, anyway, anybody who wants to jump on, feel free to shoot me any questions. I mean, first of all, what a soccer night. We had not only Charlotte FC, but we also had the Greenville Triumph, number 1 in USL 1, taking on Union Omaha at home. Union Omaha wins 2-1 final to take the lead on the USL 1 table. So that was game of the week, right down the road in Greenville, South Carolina. I was up in High Point with Sam Spencer and a photographer from Drift FC, Yeti Clan was up there. I saw some Mid-City Collective, Zelly, a number of other Crown Legacy and Charlotte FC shirts throughout the venue. Me and Sam were actually there covering Carolina Core because they've been working with us throughout the season. They're really trying to build their brand and build their presence in the Carolinas. They're an unaffiliated MLS Next Pro team, so there is a little bit of a derby with Crown Legacy. I've heard the Piedmont Derby name floated. That was an interesting game. Crown Legacy looked pretty dominant in the first half, more shots on goal, until the very end, stoppage time of the first half. Carolina Core breakaway, they score to take the lead 1-0. Crown Legacy equalizes in the second half, and Carolina Core with the winner in about the 80th minute, and Crown Legacy looked a little bit lost after that. We did see Brian Romero, Nympha. We saw a number of players here. Trying to jog my memory here. Big C in goal looked really good. Over on the Carolina Core side, I got to say, they have a defender, a center back named Kobe. He's a French guy, really big, physical guy. I think he's going to a bigger league soon, like at least USL Championship. They got some talent. Their field is incredible. They play in a baseball stadium, like a single A baseball stadium that is fully modified to accommodate a soccer pitch. So it's a convertible baseball soccer field. And it's the best version of that I've seen. It didn't feel like you were stuck in the confines of a baseball field. But meanwhile, the entire facility is oriented and laid out like a baseball park, like Truist in Charlotte, but just a little bit smaller. Everything looked new, looked great. The view was amazing. It was the most beautiful soccer venue I think I've been to this year. Highly recommend if you guys want to take the ride, an hour and a half up the road, up 85. Carolina Core has some great merch. They have the Fox logo. I'm going to be posting a bunch of stuff for my trip. I was just very impressed overall. Their organization's been fun to work with. Their head coach is a U.S. soccer legend, Roy Lassiter. He was the MLS leading goal scorer in the inaugural season of MLS back in '96. And he has basically every soccer trophy or medal that you could win as a U.S. player in his playing career. And so now he is developing, I believe he was with the Dallas Academy for MLS before this. And being an MLS Next Pro team that's unaffiliated, their job is to train up the next generation of talent and sell them on for profit and build up their organization. So they're doing a really good job. Eddie Pope, the U.S. national team player, is one of the owners. They have a really good front office. I'm just very, very impressed. And on the Crown Legacy side, Darius was also there tonight. Didn't get a chance to talk with him, but a lot of players there. And then Nick Scardina having the big day for Charlotte FC, getting his debut. It was definitely a very good night for Carolina soccer. Let me kick it over to Nothing Man. I see you on here. What were your thoughts on the game tonight, and any other soccer thoughts?
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I just have one question, and it's so if you look at how we've played over the last number of weeks and months, and now we're bringing Swiderski in, I think I'm a little bit on the side of, why do you rock the boat? Because we just beat one of the top contenders for the supporter shield on their home pitch without Swiderski and actually without Ajimang. But I feel like the chemistry and everyone is so dialed in that we're adding an element in a position that right now is extremely vital for us. I don't know. I'm a little worried. And so I know we've talked a little bit about it, but I just worry a little bit about what Swiderski is really going to bring, because we may not be the most technically sound club. We may not have, the most skilled players, but as far as clubs go, we're playing some of the top soccer in MLS right now. And so I just worry a little bit with what sort of the Queens were saying. Like, Why change a formula that we know is working, and especially coming off of what I would say is a pretty spectacular road victory for sure. So that's all I really wanted to add.
Can I take this? Crap, did I just lose signal?
No,
Okay.
you're good. I'm going in and out too, so apologies. But yeah, if you want to jump in, feel free.
One of the big reasons I think Swiderski, I guess he did work out, but not as much as we hoped last season, is that, at least to my assessment, we did not have a coach last season. Christian Latanzio was good at some things. He was not a head coach. He was not ready to be a head coach by any stretch of the means. This season, we have a coach that has a CV that got a team promoted to arguably the top league in the world and is now in the Champions League. He didn't put them there, but he set the foundations for them to be in the Champions League. Dean Smith has said that he plans to use Swiderski, and if Dean Smith believes that he can get the best out of Swiderski without putting what we already have in jeopardy, then I'm not necessarily going to fully trust Swiderski, but I will fully trust Dean Smith. And if Dean Smith says he can do it, then I will trust him.
Yeah, in Dean we trust. And on the last QCS pod episode, I mentioned that Swiderski is actually the second highest valued player on our team via transfer market after Liel Abada. Adilson Malanda is the third. So, I mean, the market is saying that Swiderski is a valuable piece of our roster. So you really have to use him. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. You got to use him or sell him on. And right now we can't sell him on until we improve his value. So in the short term, I think he has a place here. I think once we get an acceptable offer, then he'll be on his way. So there's really not much of a downside of letting him play and get some time. The question of where he fits in is the interesting part. Is he going to be a number 10? Is he going to be a 9? Is he going to be out on the wing? Is he going to just move around? Is he going to get the starting position? I don't think any of us have an answer on that. And so I think I'm with you, Ash. And Dean, I trust on this. But at the same time, I disagree with you because I want to see Ajman continue to start until Carroll wins the spot. And I think that would have to come for me from Ajman losing the spot.
I think a lot of people, first of all, are forgetting, like Ash mentioned, we had a different coach last year, and I think Swiderski's desire to move back to Europe probably stemmed more from his relationship with Latanzio than it did the team and the city. Based on an interview that I heard Swiderski do back in April, his family loved it here. He loved it here. He just felt frustrated because he wasn't getting utilized the way he wanted to be used by Latanzio. So I think having Dean come in and kind of shuffle things around with almost an identical roster to what Latanzio had last season and completely having the exact opposite results that Latanzio, again, indication of what a good coach can do. So I think we'll probably see some really good things from Swiderski, which will probably raise his value in the transfer market. And if there's one thing that Dean has made clear is that regardless of whether a player is a U22, young DP, whatever tag they have attached to their salary, no one is guaranteed a spot on the starting 11, period. He likes having that competition among the players so that they all are pushing each other to get better and better and better so that they can prove to him, who deserves to be a starting 11. I don't think Swiderski is going to be coming in and on July 20th automatically getting a start over Aishiman. I think that Carroll, like everybody else on the squad, is having to fight for the spots that he wants. If he starts on the 20th in Austin or even gets subbed in, it's because he's proven something to Dean Smith during training that we don't see. So I think a lot of people just need to keep that in mind when it comes to thinking about whether Swiderski is going to be getting the start or not over Ajiman, because I don't think he is unless he's proven himself to be better than Ajiman or to be good enough to deserve that spot.
So the only thing I'll add is I agree, and Dean I trust 100%. The problem is that Dean is in a bit of a trap, right? Because yes, I agree he believes in a meritocracy, the best guy gets the position, but that gets a little bit changed when you start looking at the highest paid players and players with the top transfer value, because you have to maintain that or you lose a lot of value. And so I guess I hope that it truly is a meritocracy. My worry is that we just beat the top club and that for value purposes, that we start breaking up the chemistry that has proven to be so solid for the last number of weeks and months. And so I agree. And in Dean, I trust, and that's where I leave my value. That's the big question that I walk around with waiting, and we'll see what happens. But it's really hard after the years that we've seen as Charlotte FC fans, when we're finally having success, to break up something that we have not been able to do, which is to have an attack and to score some goals. And even tonight, we didn't need Swiderski. We didn't even really need Agyeman. So hopefully that's a testament to Dean, and Swiderski will fit right in. I'm a huge Swiderski fan. I just worry that I'm so happy with the what we've been able to produce on the pitch that I'm just so scared of rocking the boat.
Well, let me ask: Are any of you guys college football fans?
Yes.
Okay. Well, NCAA is coming out this week. I'm very excited. Literally through the moon. I've been waiting 11 years for this. It's probably going to be the highlight of my year. But there's a saying in college football that some coaches are FFCs. You know what an FFC is? A fucking football coach. Dean Smith is a fucking football coach. Okay, different sport, same idea. He's a real coach. He's not a tactician. He's not a mastermind or a cerebral guy. He's a down and dirty coach, and he's going to get results. He's done that most of his career. We talk about Aston Villa. We talk about his different stops along the way, but you can see it with what he's doing this year, building up the defense and having taking the same pieces that another coach kept trying to mesh around in different ways, never building any chemistry or results because he wanted to make us into Man City. But he's taking those same pieces and turning us into the most reliable defense in MLS and taking down the biggest teams in the league. And that's what we've been doing all year. So, I think we do have to trust Dean. And he said at the beginning of the year, when asked about the DPs, he said, "Oh, those aren't my DPs." I love that. And now that entire DP roster has been shuffled. Getting Carroll back now, I think there's a different set of expectations. And, why did Carroll want to go to Europe? I think he's always wanted to go to Europe. He's always wanted to play for his national team. And I've heard that the Poland FA wants their players in the top leagues, like Lewandowski. And if Carroll wants to play alongside or take over for Lewandowski, they want him playing on the biggest stage in the world, and they want him to prove that. And they feel like MLS is, an inferior product. So I don't think it's coming purely from Carroll, but I think it is, coming from his FA. I think it's coming from,
what he has wanted his whole life. He didn't think the Greek league was good enough for him. He wanted something bigger. But I hope this summer was a reality check that his performance wasn't necessarily good enough for Verona, and it wasn't necessarily good enough for his FA in the Euros competition. They got bounced in the group stage. So, he needs to improve his game, and Dean can help him do that, I think. So we need him to buy in. Like you guys said, I think he's buying in. I'm optimistic, and I'm going to put my heart out there once again, knowing that it could get broken. But that's what we do as fans, right?
So I have a question I want to pose to all of you. Say Dean does get Swiderski to buy into this project, and in the next 10 games, he goes on to score 10 to 12 goals. What do we do with him then? Do we put him back in the shopping window, or do we try to convince him to stay and utilize him even more?
So if that's
We'll keep him in the shop window.
Sell them.
if that ends up being the end result, obviously his value goes up. So Luke and Nothing Man would have right. He should go up in the shopping window. But playing devil's advocate, if there's one thing I've noticed or have learned about how this whole transfer thing works, it basically you've got three parties involved. You've got the club, the player, and the player's agent, and all three parties have to agree on whether a sale is ideal or not.
And the opposing club.
Well, okay, so four,
parties.
and the opposing club, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, there were a lot of people that were saying that once this transfer window opens, Malanda was going to ship out because he has arguably become one of the best CBs in MLS, despite the All-Star snub from the roster, right? I think we can all agree on that. But within days of people saying, "Oh yeah, he's gonna be moving on," that's why we're bringing in Team Ream. Within days of that, he signs a contract extension through 2026 with an option for 2027, right? And then Malanda has come out saying that like Swiderski, of course he'd love to play in Europe at some point, but right now this is where he needs to be because at this point in his career, this is the best place for him to be right now. And I think Swiderski, from what I'm hearing from recent interviews with him, he's in that same mindset of, he has aspirations to play in Europe, but Charlotte's where he needs to be right now. And he's, always given of himself when he's been playing for Charlotte. And I think we can also all agree that while we want the MLS to grow and to become a contender and to be one of the top leagues in the world eventually, we all also agree that, or I think we can all agree that if we ever had players that were in their early to mid 20s and had no aspiration to go to Europe whatsoever, we'd be questioning whether they're serious about their development and their ambitions and being professional, especially since a lot of these players work to get called up to play for their national teams, like Urinen for Finland, Abada for Israel, Swiderski for Poland, so on and so forth. Hopefully Malanda at some point will get called up in 2026 to play for the French team when they're playing here in the World Cup, whatnot. So the point that I'm trying to get to is, for me as a fan, I can't speak for anybody else here, but for me as a fan, I am thrilled that Swiderski is coming back, and I do hope that he does stay a little bit longer to help him develop. But ultimately, I'm not going to be too upset one way or the other because I'm seeing the business side of soccer, not liking it, but I am seeing it, acknowledging it, and I feel like players like Swiderski and Ajiman and Malanda and Klein and all them, they're going to do what's best for their careers, whether they're staying in the MLS permanently or whether they're using the MLS as a stepping stone to get to bigger and better club, whatever, that's entirely on them.
Yeah.
I will add, I think that the Melanda extension, while great, and I mean, I think he's destined clearly for Europe. I don't think he'll end up anywhere close to living out that contract. I expect him to go in this either winter window this year or summer window next year. He has so much value. I don't know how he'll stay too long. And I think the club would love for the same thing to happen to Swiderski, where his value skyrockets and we can trade him this winter. But yeah, I mean, Melanda, love the guy, but I think he is destined for Europe much sooner than that contract leads people to believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's great that Melanda signed the contract extension. When we're talking about his potential market value and the sums of money that European clubs throw around for players, I think that if he continues to show his current performance and it's presumably only going to get better, he's, maybe with us for a little bit longer, but not very much longer. I think, the end of the summer transfer window this year, or if he made it to the summer transfer window next year, I'd be surprised, honestly. There are going to be some reactive teams trying to avoid relegation or whatnot, and they're going to need a player like him.
Oh, I think he'll make Caleb Wiley's contract look or transfer
So,
number look
yeah.
small.
Go ahead. Anyway, so moving on a little bit, I think we've kind of run out a lot of thoughts on the game today. Ashley Westwood, phenomenal performance, a ton of assists. He said he's never had a game like this in his career. It's just one of those nights. Sometimes they happen. But I mean, 3 assists, almost 4, and Yuri Tavares telling the world that he's expecting a child. A controversial penalty kick given against Charlotte FC, and our MLS leading goalkeeper makes the penalty save, despite being snubbed for the All-Star game in Columbus, where we visit on Wednesday. Looking ahead to this Columbus match, the hottest coach in MLS, a guy who's on the short list for a number of European club openings and even the U.S. national team. How are we feeling going into the Columbus game? We got a win against them at home in our last meeting, but they certainly have improved their form lately, and I believe they took the lead as of tonight, right now. They could be top of the table, so we could potentially play, I think, 3 top of the table teams in a row in Miami, Cincinnati, and Columbus, with the way things have been changing in the East. What a stretch of games. How are we feeling about the Columbus matchup?
I am feeling cautiously optimistic. I think that we can carry this momentum from this win into the Columbus game, but I also know that there is a very good to fair chance that Charlotte is going to Charlotte. So, cautiously optimistic.
I don't know that Charlotte's anymore with Dean Smith. I know I've been a fan from the beginning, and that I've always felt that way. I felt that way tonight. I am trying to put that to bed. I don't think Charlotte's the way that we were under Latanzio and all that nonsense. I think that we are someone that nobody wants to play. We beat Cincinnati on the road. There's no reason we cannot get points against Columbus. And, I think that shows where we are as a club. Because honestly, I will feel a little bit disappointed if we don't walk away with a point. And that's just from how we played for the last 6-8 weeks.
Before tonight's win, I would have said we're going to lose in Columbus and we're just going to go ahead and take the L and, hopefully have better luck against Austin. After the win tonight, though, if Charlotte can consistently play against Columbus like they did tonight, if Dean can make the adjustments that he made with the team to counter the strong suits of Columbus while taking advantage of their weaknesses and creating the opportunities that we need to score. I don't see why we can't sweep Columbus this season. I don't think it'll be a 2-0 win. I think it's going to be a tight game, maybe a 1-0, 2-1 win for Charlotte. But I do think that we can get the win. At worst, a draw.
Yeah, thank you guys for all that. If we beat Columbus, then we sweep the state of Ohio. I think this is a classic trap game. The letdown look ahead is real for Columbus, right ahead of the All-Star game, with not only 5 of their players participating, but their coach as well. I think they may overlook lowly old Charlotte, who doesn't get any media recognition from anybody. Even though we beat them last time, I think maybe that's gone out of their minds a little bit. And Wilfred Nancy, one of the best coaches in the league, on the continent, arguably, I think he may not be paying attention, and they'll stick to their regular game plan. And Westy was talking in the post game today about how they game plan based on what Cincinnati always does, because they anticipated they would not change things up this time, and they didn't. So we took advantage of that. Dean played right against their strengths with our wing backs, playing a little further back to get some space, and then pushing forward. So hell yeah, I'd say let's analyze Columbus and do it to them. Beat the state of Ohio. It's arguably one of the worst states in the country. So let's prove it. Real Queen City, first in flight. We're gonna do it 2 in a row.
I'd say Florida.
Well, I mean, I'd say Jersey, but yeah, I said arguably. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. We have some other soccer news. I mean, do you guys want to talk about the U.S. coaching vacancy? Last faces, Greg Berhalter still had a job, and he's currently unemployed. Who do you guys like to take over the U.S. head coaching role?
Honestly, anybody's better than Greg. So
Yeah. At this point, honestly, with all the candidates that they have, at this point, we can definitely say Klopp's not doing it because he's already said no. So aside from that, the field is wide open. I know Wilfred Nancy's being considered. Chandolo from LAFC
Wilfred Nancy is not taking the job. I would bet you my next mortgage payment, Wilfred Nancy would be a fool, an absolute fool to take the job. He has bigger and better things ahead of him. He's with a better club now. I mean, why make changes?
Oh no, I definitely agree. I don't think that he's going to take it either. I'm just saying that he's a candidate that the Soccer Federation is looking at, but I don't think he's going to take it. I think he's going to follow
Bruce
Klopp
Arena?
and say, nope.
No,
he's not even on the list of contenders, to be honest.
And he shouldn't be after the way he got fired from New England.
Yeah.
I think if we can manage to get the French women's coach, that would be an absolute steal.
Hervé Renard.
Yeah, Renard, I've heard it's good.
Other than that, honestly, I don't know that we have a good candidate out there, and we would have to go through a really good search, which U.S. Soccer has actually never done. So I don't have a lot of confidence in that.
I mean, considering that they're considering Jim Curtin, whose Philadelphia Union is literally wooden spooning right now. You're right. Like the USSF is not really taking it seriously.
You guys haven't mentioned the leading candidate, which is currently Steve Cherundolo from LAFC. He was in a press conference the other day and was asked about it, and he was so smarmy and just gross talking about it. Oh, well, I'm currently the LAFC coach, and that is my only job. And I just the dude brings nothing to the table that Berhalter didn't bring. Like, he's just not a good candidate. He's the regular recycled USSF trash that we have been force-fed for the last 10 years. I'm sick of it, dude. Like, you know who was the most accurate commentating on this? Jesse fucking Marsh for Canada, ahead of the Copa America third place game. He said no, he would not consider being the U.S. head coach because there are organizational problems that need to change
before anyone serious should take the job. That dude
Mhm.
is like keeping it 100. Okay, Jesse Marsh would have been a great candidate. He was a better candidate than bringing back Berhalter. And the problem is not with the coaches that are getting brought in; it's with the organization that's doing the hiring, doing the searches, and running the ship. The ship's going in the wrong direction. Okay, chaining somebody else to that rudder is not going to make a difference. That's my opinion.
It's like Tepper times 10, basically, at the national level.
Oh,
It's
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 worse than
so much
Tapper.
deeper than that. Yeah,
It's so
it's so
much
much deeper
deeper.
because they're not
It,
capitalists. They're
our,
incestuous former players who were stuck in the 90s when
Hmm.
soccer was like the minor league sport that nobody respected, and they don't take it seriously. And they
well,
stay inside their own little bubble with people they used to play with and their friends and associates from 30 years ago. And they don't bring in any new blood or anybody who's serious about the sport or who actually knows and excels in the current football environment. Like it's pathetic,
Yep,
and that's what we're stuck with.
well, I will
absolutely.
say if you statistically look at years like 1994 versus today, 94 clearly was better on the international stage. They were. And so if the argument is, oh, we have more players in European clubs, I mean, listen, it's clearly not translating and they need to clean house from absolute top to bottom. I mean, when our peak was 94 and we're in 2024, that's tough. I personally believe that we have more talent on the pitch today than we did, but I got to tell you, the results are not they're not supporting my hypothesis, and so man, I think they absolutely need to just fire everyone, like top to bottom, and just start over.
Yep, pretty much.
Well,
I mean,
it's complicated because the rest of the world has also gotten significantly better. A lot of the low to mid associations in '94 are now powerhouses. I mean, look at teams like Croatia or Uruguay or Colombia. I mean, they would not have been on the map in '94. But um, it is an interesting question. CONCACAF was also much, much better in the '90s, and they've cratered. So our competition that we see on a regular basis has gotten significantly worse, while the competition that we see once every 4 years has gotten significantly better. We're getting embarrassed in the big tournaments. Um, if we're serious about soccer, if the United States is a serious soccer country, we need to leave CONCACAF and join CONMEBOL. That's just a fact.
yeah, I mean, honestly, when you look at CONCACAF, really the only the only teams in CONCACAF that are worth their salt and that can give the U.S. a run for its money are Mexico and Canada. And even then, that's a bit of a stretch because, Mexico's team is sinking and sinking fast. And it's getting to the point now where um, most experts no longer consider Mexico to be an elite team. Canada is a team that used to be in the position that Mexico is heading in, but given their run in Copa America, um, falling short of third place, despite that fact, they still got further than the United States did in a competition that is dominated by South American teams.
They
Um,
won CONCACAF last cycle. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. Yeah.
so
So I mean that shows you that Canada is an up and coming team, and a lot of that is due to what Jesse Marsh has brought to the Canadian national team. So really, when you think about it, there's nobody to challenge the United States in proper competition. Yeah, you've got friendlies, but let's face it, with friendlies, you're not going to play your first string team. You might play one or two of your players from the first string, but not the team that you're going to be going to World Cups with, right? Um, there's been talk of um, among fans that CONCACAF and CONMEBOL should be combined into a single confederation to fix that problem because most of the Caribbean teams don't have the budgets to be competitive with Mexico and the United States and Canada, so they're pretty much pushover or should be pushover teams to play. But if Canada, the United States, and Mexico had to compete against all the Central American and South American teams that are in CONMEBOL, that could help fix the problems of the U.S. soccer taking things a little bit more seriously. I feel like it would push a combined confederation like that would push them up to the quality, or could push them up to the quality of what we see out of UEFA, and would make those
I'll
teams.
agree with that. I think one of the magical things about Euros is the Euro qualifier process, where you have the groups and you have these smaller teams from smaller countries and whatever it is, 50, 60 different federations that take part in the qualifier process.
Mhm.
And you can't have that in South America. There's not enough teams. And I would like to see the bigger teams play some of the scrappy upstart teams. And I think it may help develop the Caribbean game. You could have your teams like Jamaica maybe find a little bit of glory once again by beating some South American teams. Your, Honduras's, Costa Rica's, they could be competitive in some of those games. And so, yeah, no, I mean, I think increasing the number of confederations and, get Greenland in here while we're at it. But the one thing that CONCACAF and CONMEBOL have in common, first of all, language. It's all Spanish and English, right? And Portuguese and French. But time zones. Travel between them is a little long, but we're in the same time zones, the same, broadcast schedules pretty much apply between the countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep.
I would take it. I think that U.S. Soccer Federation has been scared for years and years and years and years of CONCACAF. Of CONMEBOL. Like we have, and the problem is we're now in a trap where we should win CONCACAF every time. I mean, obviously we have multiple times more resources than everyone else and population, etc. Yet we don't, and so it's become an embarrassment. I mean, I think that it's only a win-win if they combine the two, because right now, it's an embarrassment for the U.S. if we're not, the champion every year. So it would increase our competition. It would increase. I think it would solve a lot of problems. The problem is it would embarrass U.S. soccer because it would show how inept they are, and that's probably the reason why we haven't done it yet.
Well,
Fire the bums. Fire
exactly.
them.
Absolutely. Like the only way that USSF is going to make any of those changes that Luke's talking about is if they get embarrassed like that. By continuing to play in CONCACAF, where again we've got smaller, scrappier clubs or national teams that are essentially pushovers for Mexico, U.S., and Canada to compete against. Nothing's going to change because the United States doesn't get embarrassed, because the United States is going to always win those qualifiers for the World Cup or Gold Cup or wherever else CONCACAF competes in as a confederation. But if the United States had to continuously play against teams like Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, in any kind of competition outside of World Cups or even Copa America, U.S. soccer is going to have to acknowledge that there's a problem, not just with the coaching staff, but internally as well. And they're going to have to do something. Otherwise, if they lose the fandom, right, they lose the support, then they're going to go back to being the biggest joke in the soccer world. And let's face it, being one of the biggest countries in the world, period, one of the leaders in the world, the United States isn't going to stand for that. So I think we need it, if I'm going to be honest. I think we need to be embarrassed. I think
you want to talk about embarrassing? The U.S. Soccer Federation has the chance to do the funniest thing ever and wait like a month or two and then hold a press conference and say, hey, we've been looking for the next coach. And you guys aren't going to believe this, but This guy Greg Berhalter checks all the boxes, and we're going to hire him back again.
If that happens, I will claim my Scottish heritage and move to Scotland and just become Scottish. Fuck the U.S.
No,
if that
man.
happens.
The election is later this year, and whatever happens in this election, I think we all need to start taking some proactive measures. It's looking very bad for all of us.
Europe has free healthcare. I'm going over there.
If they hire Greg Berhalter again, I fear that this entire country will absolutely self-destruct. And I don't fear that no matter who is chosen for president in November. I mean, that would be the most astounding thing I've ever heard.
I don't disagree with you, and that's hilarious.
But do you know what the scary thing is? I wouldn't put it past the U.S. Soccer Federation to do exactly that. That's the horrifying thing. Like, I can see a full-on scenario where they say, "Hey, we think Greg Berhalter is still the right guy. We're going to put him back in."
You know, the worst idea in the world may not be to get Trump associated with CONCACAF or U.S. Soccer Federation, one or the other, and just have him go full, crooked deals. That's the way we need to deal with CONMEBOL, is to get down on their level. I'm sure that's one of the things they've been afraid of, is that all the drug money in South America and the corruption. We could fight that. We could fight them with their own weapon.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's a mess. I relented on my boycott of U.S. soccer sponsors, and I got a case of this USA Soccer branded Michelob Ultra, which is cool as hell. These cans are amazing, especially ahead of the Olympics. And I say Michelob Ultra and the other sponsors, the Volkswagens of the world, need to back up the money truck and hire Jurgen Klopp. Yeah, sure, he said no the first time. Every girl likes to play hard to get, but we got to show them that we mean business by backing up the money truck.
I am a huge Liverpool fan. And first of all, you don't. I know. Yeah, it's fine. I'm okay with that. You don't understand how much I would love that. I also don't think you understand how absolutely there is no chance that that's going to happen. But I do love the Klopp trolling of the U.S. Men's team with his shirts that say states and blah, blah, blah. What a character.
Yeah, that was photoshopped, by the way. But still funny. He did the 4th of July post. But yeah, it's still very funny. He loves the U.S. He said that. And I don't think he understands. He can still take a year off because the U.S. men don't fucking play anybody for the next year. Like, what do you think your job responsibilities are as head coach, dude? You just got to be a figurehead for a year. Go on some talk shows. Talk to some donors every once in a while. And guess what? You're going to get taken care of, and you can be on vacation the rest of the time. Like, you can still take a year off and be the U.S. men's coach. So back up the money truck.
Let Greg coach for another year.
Oh God.
Boo this man. Boo.
Boo.
All right, so quick question. Score predictions for tomorrow.
Yeah, Copa final. We have Colombia and Argentina.
And Euros.
Oh, Euros, right. England and Spain?
Yep. I think for the Euros, it's going to be Spain 4-0.
Yep. I was going to say 6.
I'm sorry. Have you seen England play?
Yes.
They play like shit.
That's why I said 4-0. That's why Ash is saying 6-0. So it'll probably be more like closer to 5-0.
They play so slow. You're not going to be able to. There's not enough time to score that many goals. I'm going to say 2-1 Spain final.
Spain is going to absolutely demolish them.
Yeah.
Spain will kill them.
Yeah.
England.
I don't think it's going to reflect on the scoreboard, though.
I don't think I would not call the way Spain plays soccer slow. I mean, I saw how they.
No, England will drag them down into the mud.
True, but Spain will still win 3-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
That very well could be. If you give me England +2, I would take it. Okay. Or England +2.25 or whatever. I would take it. All right. Copa, I'm gonna take Colombia 2-1. I think they I think it's also going to be lower scoring, but I feel like Colombia is the team of destiny right now, and Messi on his own is not enough to get it done for Argentina.
I agree with you score-wise, but given the fact that it's Argentina against Colombia, and this could very well be Messi's last Copa America, the way the officiating has been going for Copa America, I think it's going to be 2-1 Argentina. I think CONMEBOL is going to make sure that Messi gets one more trophy before he retires.
I'm going to say 3-2 Argentina.
I'm
I
actually
think
gonna
Colombia
say,
will put up a fight.
I'm going to say 3-1 Colombia. I think that they're going to make it messy. I think that Messi himself is not at top form, and I think Colombia will end up running them out.
Dude, Canada was ill done by the refs, but if they had beaten Messi and just posted a picture of Poutine on their social media afterwards, I would have lost my fucking mind. I'd go buy a Canada jersey like tomorrow.
Shoot, I'd
Anyway.
have gone and tried poutine for the first time.
God, dude, poutine is so good. So good. But they sell it at QC Bites in Charlotte if you're tailgating in the like French Quarter, that alleyway. QC Bites has a really good poutine.
Okay. I'll have to go try it out.
All right, guys, getting kind of late here. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like we're kind of winding down here, but final thoughts, I guess, on Charlotte FC. The trade window's opening up soon. If you had to pick one player, and I'll give you a few choices here, which one would you select to be first one in the door? Let's say you have your Callum Wilson, Luciano Rodriguez, or Tim Ream. Who would you take as your first signing of the transfer window?
Rodriguez.
Yeah, I was
Immediately.
going to say
Rodriguez.
absolutely. Yes. 100%.
Unanimous Rodriguez.
Is he worth a 25% sell-on clause?
Yes. Absolutely. 100%.
Do you realize how much a 25% sell-on clause is?
Yes. I don't care.
In addition to like $8 to $10 million for signing fee.
No matter what your question
is, it won't matter anyway because we can only convert so much into general allocation money and TAM, and plus we had the fucking second richest owner in the league, so it's not like money is that much of a factor for us.
On top of that, given the fact
vast majority that's not liquid for him, but yeah.
And then on top of that, given the fact that Miami and LAFC and LA Galaxy have all three somehow managed to find the loopholes in the roster restrictions, and between the three of them sign like almost 20 different DPs. I'm like, fuck it. If Charlotte has to pay like a $20 million transfer fee plus a 25% sell-on clause to bring Rodriguez here, I say fucking do it. Okay,
well, I'll just point out we've taken advantage of MLS roster rules in different ways. If you look at Crown Legacy's roster last year, we completely took advantage of the MLS setup for the reserve team by stashing millions and millions of dollars of payroll on a team that has no payroll limit in a lower division. So
I am in a similar industry as Tepper, and he is not one for losing. And I think that he will. I don't think that money is going to be a problem.
It's not the money; it's the deal. Because Zoran Cornetta is a former agent, and what I've heard through back channels is that the deal with Citigroup for Luciano fell apart because of the 25% sell-on clause. They weren't willing to do it, and Charlotte got right back in the mix, and were met with the same 25%, and were unwilling to continue. But there was interest from Luciano's camp about coming to Charlotte, so I'm hoping we can keep those talks going. River Plate seems to be the favorite, or Boca Juniors, but who knows?
Well, I will tell you this: Tepper does not like to be embarrassed in the media, and so person who
we're already winning without him. So
right, but the person who has most to risk is Corin, because if Tepper feels like, Tepper just wants to win, and he doesn't care how much he has to bend the rules, etc. He will. We just haven't done it yet, and I think that.
So would you guys be happy about Callum Wilson signing?
No.
No.
Given his given his injury history recently, and him being a striker, it would be almost as if we were down to just Ajiman and Swiderski as the only central forwards available for the team, and should both of them become incapacitated for whatever reason or unavailable, we'd be in the same situation that we were in tonight, which is we'd be scrambling to find somebody to put in for either one of them. So no, would not want Callum Wilson here just simply because of that. Quickly to add on to the Rodriguez thing, I think that Cornetta's already feeling the pressure because of everything that went down with Royce. Granted, I knew we were going to have a hard time convincing a German player of that caliber to come here to Charlotte, despite its similarities to Dortmund. But the fact that we gave up our quote unquote discovery rights for a measly $350,000, down from the original $5 million that Cornetta wanted, I think that might already count as an embarrassment for Tipper, because that was practically giving Royce away to LA Galaxy, and now Galaxy are struggling to find some way of squeezing Royce in to their roster because of their DPs and their salaries and whatnot, which has now given Inter Miami an opportunity to stick their foot in the door and are now in talks of trying to get Royce to come down to Inter Miami, which again boggles my mind because at this point they've got like 12 DPs somehow. So I think that situation should be putting pressure on Cornetta to do what he can to make sure that Rodriguez comes here, because if Rodriguez doesn't come here and we end up going with second and third string choices just to get signings in the door, I don't see Cornetta lasting past the offseason in that situation.
Also, I think if Charlotte is smart, a signing that they would and really should go after is Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen is not going to be at Manchester United next season. There's really no place for him. He's an older, more experienced player, but he still has honestly a world-class passing range still, that if he is played at number 10, he could transform this team. And he's relatively cheap too. I think United's asking price is going to be between maybe 5 to 10 million for Eriksson. And so I think Charlotte would be really stupid to not at least look at trying to make a deal for him.
Absolutely. And given, like you just mentioned, the fact that he is a 10, he's the kind of 10 that we could use. In fact, I'm glad. Funny that you bring it up, Ash. I was actually thinking during the Euros, watching Denmark play, I actually had a thought of, Eriksson is a player I really would love to see come to Charlotte, because he's got that caliber. He's like Lewandowski, doesn't play for, super strong team nationally, but plays for one of the best clubs in Europe and has that caliber. So, I think he would like it here in Charlotte. So I would love if we could get Eriksson to come here.
Well, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. This is Level Up Luke, and thank you guys so much for joining me in the Twitter Spaces tonight. We'll catch you next time. It's always for the crown and Vamos Foxes.
On the ground.